So this is the Sacramento Valley, just right outside the Sacramento airport. We're in a rice field that's flooded. This is my friend Sean Doherty. It was the very end of the season. It's the last weekend. We're going in the last weekend of waterfowl season. Mixed bag hunt. And Scott Feist is an outfitter and buddy of Sean's here. And he's taking some time to show us around his big fancy duck spread out here in one of Sean's rice fields.
California's Sacramento Valley is known for agriculture, waterfowl, and salmon. I'm here because my friend Sean Doherty said nothing tastes better than a rice-fed duck, but also because this valley, heck, this state, is facing the monumental challenge of deciding where the Sacramento River belongs. Is it in the river for salmon, Sean's fields for rice, or tap water for cities downstream? On the ground, this area might resemble natural marshes, but on a broader level, it's a complicated and extensive web of infrastructure. The wetlands we're hunting this week are actually a mosaic of rice fields, a staple of the area's economy. Though current farming practices are great for birds and mimic the natural flooding of the Sacramento River, salmon advocates contend that there isn't enough flow left for fish. Is this a case that if farmers and ducks win, salmon lose? Or is there some middle ground? This week, we are going to get a look at managing water for both a way of life and wildlife, and, of course, to see if rice-fattened ducks are really that good.
Get him again.
Nice shot. Boy.
Chuck.
A lot of shooting.
Yeah, it's kind of a... Okay, backside. Ready, Cal? Ready? Three, two, one, go. That one again. Good shot. Get him again. Get him again. Got him. He did.
Yes.
Right behind us. Big ball of widgeon. Oh, gun safe. We just mowed those down. Look at these widgeon. My dog's out, so we don't normally shoot. You guys can, oh, look at their teal. Their teal. Ready? Go, mallard. Well done. We had to take the mallard. Two of them, go. Sorry.
Nice.
Hey, watch this. Watch these. Oh, nice. I think we got two. Good shooting.
Nice.
Right there, boy.
Our first morning out, and the rice fields did not disappoint. We ended up with a great mixed bag of birds, and we definitely contributed to the Pittman-Robertson 11% excise tax on firearms and ammunition, which helps fund every state wildlife agency. Now that I know the ducks like the rice as advertised, I'm eager to learn more.
Not beautiful, but
you know, the story of water in this area is the story of this area, right?
Yeah. When our forefathers came in here, you know, 125 years ago and started draining the land to plant crops and commercialize it and building these levees to restrict the water from coming out in the floodplain, they didn't realize the impact they were having. And that was a lot of those generations, and no fault of their own, that's what America did back then.
Prior to human interference at the turn of the 20th century, the Sacramento Valley was a natural patchwork of productive wetlands. As humanity does, an effort to reclaim the wild Sacramento River for tamer uses began.
Reclamation means you're reclaiming the land from the marshes. And so a reclamation district would go in and it would be formed for a certain area. And then they would put up the levees, they'd pump the ground dry and make it suitable for agriculture and for human habitation and commercialization.
The first rice farms were established in the valley in the early 1900s. Oddly enough, rice benefits from seasonal flooding, something the wild Sacramento River used to do. Better suited for the soil type than many other crops, this form of agriculture soon became a dominating economic force in the valley.
The way the rice works in the Sacramento Valley is it's a close approximation to the way it used to be. So this ground is underwater for 8 months out of the year. You know, because we have 2 months in the spring when we're working it and getting ready to plant the crop. We have 2 months in the fall when we're harvesting the crop, and then it goes back underwater. And now, if we can come in with our modified wetlands, our rice field wetlands, and help Mother Nature along, boy, it's just a win-win.
Yeah, you're taking a wild river that is now tamed, or in your guys' words, reclaimed, trying to provide some of that value of what the wild river did, which was flood out onto these plains, slow down, warm up a little bit, create some life, let the fish and the birds be happy before it went back into the river. Like sitting here in the Sacramento Valley, Pacific Flyway has collected birds from a good chunk of the world for a long, long time. It's had a real steep decline, obviously, but now, according to Audubon Society, there's over 1 billion migratory birds that come through the Pacific Flyway. That's, since let's say the 80s, that's a huge rebound. A big part of that has to do with changes in farming practices, right?
The changes we made were, you know, minute. Honestly, I mean, we stopped burning, we started flooding. The effects of that have just been, well, I mean, you've been able to see that. Yeah. We've been able to see that here. Now there's a lot more duck hunters now than there were, and just a lot more birds spread out.
Not only have bird numbers increased, but so has the diversity of species, drawing hunters and bird watchers from all over the U.S. to this unique hunting ground. And in my opinion, there is no better way to bird watch than by sitting in a duck blind.
Here's a duck.
Hair coming in the back door.
Well, got us a speckle buoy. One go. Oh yeah, he marked it, but I'll send him regardless. I can send Striker all the way to the levee. Back? Yeah. I know, I'm charged.
Oh, and a beautiful dog.
Jewelry? No jewelry?
This is rice decomposition that turns their bellies brown like this, right?
Yep. Go, Cal. It's a hard shot this time. Go, Cal. Good shot, Cal.
I shot him on the first.
I know you did. It's hard into that sun. Go ahead, Sean. Okay, there you go. Headshot. Beautiful.
You might hit some lids out there, so just watch your step. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Sean, go. Cal, go. Cal, go. Somebody go. Get him again.
Nice, Sean.
Nice. All right. Cool. Go.
That was a little over the top. Uh-oh.
Right there, shoot. Oh, I got the end out of it.
It's kind of been proven that some nominal changes can make a big effect on not only waterfowl, but just migratory birds in general. But you have this other migratory species that's kind of fighting for the same water. And so, I mean, do you think you're gonna get there with the salmon too? I mean, do you think you're gonna see it? Like, where do we go from here? Like, do you think some small changes are gonna see an effect, or are you gonna realize effect in your lifetime in this valley?
I firmly believe that we will. What's really nice here is we fought against stopping the rice straw burning. We fight against people for our water rights and right to farm and flood our fields with water to grow our crops. And now a lot of us are all coming together. You know, we have great NGOs they're partnering with, the California Rice Commission, and we're all working collectively on these projects to make things better for the salmon. Everyone's kind of marching in the same general direction. We all kind of have a path forward that we think could work. You know, I hope to be eating salmon almost every other day on top of my rice.
Top of your rice, yeah. Well, should we unload and we'll go clean up some birds?
Yeah, I think so.
You ready to clean, Scott?
Though the sweet aroma of grilled duck is calling my name, I need to meet up with some experts before dinner. The Jacobs work for Cal Trout, and they are looking at ways the current system can benefit waterfowl and salmon.
Hey, Cal.
What's happening?
I didn't see you there, man. Startled me.
Yes,
Good to see you, man. How was your hunt this morning?
It was very good. Hey,
Find a
how's it
limit?
going? Yes, we did.
All right, this is Jacob Montgomery. He runs science for Cal Trout out here on the floodplain.
You run science.
Run it. That's big science.
You carry a heavy load.
We've been working with the growers out here to flood up these fields so that it's like mimicking the natural wetlands that would have been out here. I know this is a rice field. It doesn't seem natural, right? But we're getting the same kind of natural phenomena, the same process. And what that is plants growing out on the floodplain, right? They store solar energy, they store sunlight. And when they're in a puddle like this, that energy breaks down in the water, microbes break it down, turn it into bugs. Those bugs are fish food. That's what makes healthy populations of fish. We're out here gonna drain all these bugs into that canal, and from the canal it goes back to the river.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny though, because like, use the word natural.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I just don't associate this area with natural. Maybe I'm just a jerk from Montana, right?
But no, I think you got it just right. In the middle of the Central Valley, it's one of the most intensively farmed landscapes on Earth. And yet, it has the capacity to both produce food for people in summer, and in winter, these very same fields can mimic the wetland habitat that was once here. The ducks that you were shooting this morning figured that out, right? When the rice farmers, instead of burning these fields, started to flood them, started to mimic, approximate the way that it used to be, the ducks looked down and said, whoa, I know what to do with that, right? It's a wetland. And it was full of food. It's full of waste grain, but it's also full of bugs. And the bugs happen because the plant matter gets broken down by microbes and turned into, well, we can show you. The bugs that are right here, yeah, let's see it.
Like Sean pointed out, it only took a small change from rice straw burning to rice field flooding to significantly improve waterfowl populations. The hope is, with salmon, the same can be done. Slight alterations in irrigation timing could provide salmon smolt in the Sacramento with a ton of food that doesn't currently exist. Or, in certain areas, these smolt could even feed in the rice fields themselves. It's exciting to think that a real solution could be as simple as collaboration over regulation. Through cooperative efforts of current stakeholders, they've already proven that slight changes can have big impacts for the better.
And this was wetland out here? This is part of the original
Right.
floodplain?
Exactly. This is the original floodplain, and for most of the winter before European development, this would have looked something like this. But that floodplain's not gone. We're standing in the middle of it right now. And so if we can use the same infrastructure that drained that wetland to recreate it, to reactivate the floodplain, we can, in these fields, recreate those natural patterns that create natural productivity. There's a pump house down there called Rough and Ready. We'll have to show it to you.
Yeah, I want to see it, for sure. Oh, man. Oh!
Yeah. So these were put in 1913, right? And they can pump all that water on the floodplain back into the river. All of that food-rich water back into the river where the fish need it.
So this is a piece of infrastructure improvements that we're working on to basically retool our irrigation and drainage infrastructure in California to work better for fish. So this didn't used to be here, and those adult fish would just get stranded way up in the end of this canal trying to spawn in a mud puddle, basically. But now with this structure, we can intentionally attract the fish through this fish ladder into a compartment, and every morning the Department of Fish and Wildlife is out here lifting fish out of this cage and trucking them back to the river so they can actually get a successful spawn off in some proper habitat.
So would you call this an ideal situation?
It's not an ideal situation, but it's a situation that we're adapting to the current conditions where we want to have productive agriculture, we want to protect our cities with levees and flood control, and we want to have sustainable fish populations. And we're trying to pull pieces from all of those different influences and get them all to work simultaneously.
The seemingly minor change of rice straw flooding instead of rice burning led to the rebound of the Pacific Flyway. The birds are everywhere and the farmers aren't losing their jobs. This landscape is so unnatural that the option of letting the river just do its thing isn't viable. Farming and waterfowl seem to work. What's the solution at the intersection of farming and fishing?
Cleaning up this speckled belly that Scott so rudely shot out from underneath me. You know, it's like a little success story, right? It's this interesting migration that didn't really know that much about until these birds started coming back into the Sacramento Valley in greater numbers. And I think it's just a great example of what can be done with some effort. And all the stuff that we learned this week regarding efforts around agriculture and water in regards to waterfowl, but the salmon question as well. Where do you think we're at in that game?
The water question, we've been battling over water in California for generations and generations. And I think as far as, what we're doing here now, we are at the beginning of this. What we did 25 years ago when we switched from rice straw burning to flooding and what that did for the waterfowl and the wetlands, it's incredible. And I think in regards to fisheries, I think we are at the beginning of it. And if you check back in 20 years, 25 years, heck, you might be able to walk across the Sacramento River on the backs of salmon.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the things that I truly appreciate and love the most about hunting is the interesting things it shows you, right? Like the bycatch of hunting. And one of those bycatch scenarios is learning about this valley, like truly a place that I just wouldn't be spending any time if it weren't for an invite to come shoot some ducks over ice.
Yep.
It's crazy to think that all the different species that thrive here have individual needs that this altered Sacramento ecosystem is still providing for. And it does so because we humans basically allow it. These birds would not be here if someone weren't there to open a floodgate. Opening the floodgates is great for birds, but it's also great for growing food. It is only this type of mutualistic relationship that will allow salmon to swim here too.